Balame, Sanjay Rinpoche, Chabalame, Tamje Rinpoche, Rambalame, Ngöndro Rinpoche. Jamne, Kuncho Somle, Nene, Ome, Chökyi, Inje, Porande, Tusum Sanjay Kuncho, Woni. Ransum Choko, Some Tenzaba, Zare, Lame, Shabla, Chechi, Jeden, Chechi, Charabasrichi, Dalute, Marafi. Kata Teju, Sholo, Doba, Yelodo, Pape, Nava, Zaldu, so. 가서 떠오른데 봐.就是저런데는 공부 전에처니 개매 바래야 더워라 쇼 너무 하이게 달루다 늦게 조금 타다 매게 나도 로아 군제 잡게 있어서 탐제게도 나게 최된도 라서 덤바 라메 산제를 보지 제텐시 캄라 덤바 뭐 해버리 덤바 강가 라가죠 그치 쉬고 대나네 덤바 투지 젠지 젠테 쳔베이시 제 도제 제베트네 좁에 눈두소 연대 삼주를 내버지 여버리 덤바 되게 가르수하래 담배 취소하래 최세견의 가래 최네 시작 최세의 콘델 남심주도 최 야나 취소의 율 난젠베스임지 남샤 아 제바체는 치수의 율지 남샤 난젠베스임지 남샤 탈바타 탐지심be 공방 레버치베 남지 남샤 최승의 할레비 자침보 삽신 자쳐가지 여바래 대체 담배 최대 먼저 냠솔라나 탈바타 탐지심바 공방 터그리 맨날 먼저 내 나서심보 지게 내게 나르게나 내 틀을 도르차발 내 모션게 매박해봐 주고 매박해봐 디게 내가 좀 딱지 땅내 맨 삼모지 때네 맨 삼모지 세네 내 틀을 도르게 배테션도 먼저 녀모바 지치 시동게 내지 남니 돼요 먼저 도와 리프나네 미르데 지다 냐손솜라 되나 미르데 대시되게 밀루지레 임바 이나야가주 대화티 치바스게테 데 주라탄 제반 준드로가나 시시마도 딱대 메버리 세그 내말 땀녀라 가시 좀네요 되는 통통 좀마도 아주 배주 당하게 딱 거가 메버리 내가 좀 좋아 메시한테 지다 르데 나때네 셰셰 연대 장아요 봐 반조 롱주 사송 별 소체요 봐 맹다 년라다 고살라서 봐这个事都아주 매바 두마치비요 이나야 저런 두세 조dom지 메다바다 사버지 메이체데 체네 로스게 말메 다버리 딱바테 매버리 치와생인데 내제리 남치 참매리 치와 내제리 마시바 수지 라해요 다다 지지 니트 바로 좀 놓고요 라해 요원이 치고요 치와 갑술라 르데 요왕 완전히 포보레 데 요왕 완전히 포보데 반들 요왕 완전히 봐 째고 소보디 야르 캉바다 봐 야캉 그 야캉 되게 잡아지는 말이에요 단 남시에 라데요 남시에 떨메 봐 자도 롱게 프로반다고 되네 라 레냐 봐 사바이나 영화 예수지 메게 왜줄라 소가 레냐 봐 사바이나 되네 예수선 그 리텐체 그래 진짜 매나야 레게 레왕게 냐르와라 사랑그 동안 3주는 되어요 예달에 대공근도 동안 딱 들돌라야 동안 지키치라 사발라서 동안 3주는 되어 어서도 아주 메가 통신 같아요 메다 하다 라마이 그 리텐라야 대지 탈라 트버여나야 사제게 대지 여러 제지 대지 레마도 조라메베메베 강야 왕게요 말에 랑그 르데야 랑 왕게요 말에 르 샤라스 포고데야 랑 왕게요 말에 대만조 야샤바지 말에
We pay homage to the unsurpassed teacher who is the Buddha. In this world, there have been many, many different teachers who have come, and we must pay our respects to all of them. However, among all of these different teachers who have appeared in the world, our teacher, the Buddha, had great wisdom, love, and compassion for beings, and the power to protect. He had these inconceivable qualities. And what did this teacher, our teacher Shakyamuni, who had those kind of qualities, what did he teach? He taught the Dharma. What is the Dharma? It refers to things which we can come to know, objects of knowledge. It also refers to all phenomena of samsara, nirvana, and the path. The term dharmas also refers to outer objects which are perceived, as well as the inner perceiving mind, the presentation on these two topics. If we talk about what dharma means in a very vast or extensive way. It's also the presentation on how to follow the path that leads to liberation and omniscience, which is a vast and a profound topic. If we practice the Dharma, we ourselves can attain liberation and omniscience. For example, if we're sick, if we're very sick, we need a skilled doctor who understands our illness. And that doctor first examines us, and then he or she gives us profound medicine to take. And when we take that medicine, we are healed from our illness. Just like that, we have 84,000 negative emotions. We are ill, we are sick with these negative emotions. And we then are caught up in the experiences of having been born among the 6 classes of beings in samsara. And if we think about among these 6 types of beings, of course, a human life, compared with many of the others, is one in which we do experience some kind of happiness. However, all of that happiness is subject to change. It's not permanent. It's not lasting. We might enjoy foods and clothing and a place to stay. We might experience some kind of fame or renown, but no matter how much one has of those things, we only experience them for a very short time. In general, we spend so much effort actually using our bodies to pursue these things. We can use our bodies to pursue knowledge and understanding, to gain. We use our bodies to gain wealth, to protect wealth and try and increase that wealth. We use these physical bodies, we use our time and energy pursuing name and fame and gain. We put so much effort into these things, but in fact, all of this is impermanent. In general, everything is impermanent, and in particular, this human body is just like a candle in the wind. It's certain that we will die, and we don't know when we are going to die. It is certain that we will die, but we do not know when this will happen. And in fact, all beings around us, everyone, one after the other, they are all dying, and soon I myself, too, will need to die. We should remind ourselves of this. And what happens when we die is that our body is made up of the 5 elements, and it has to give back to them. It has to return. Basically, this body is like a house, a borrowed house, a rented house. And at the time that we give the body back to the elements, what is left is simply our consciousness, and that consciousness wanders. It just wanders on, like blown like a feather in the wind by our karma. And if we have engaged in negative karma, then we will be reborn in the lower realms. We will experience the suffering of the hell beings, who experience the suffering of hot and cold, hungry ghosts who experience the suffering of hunger and thirst, animals who experience the suffering of being eaten by one another. And even if we're born as a human or a god or a demigod, there is some kind of happiness here in these realms, but it is not a lasting happiness. It is something that is certainly subject to change, and so we are not in control. We don't even control our own bodies. We're not actually in control of anything.
치다마다 체니비 치비 이실라 때네 시자탐제 만데바 살레 챙겨요래 체네 나도 로로 심절에 담배추 삽시 야차바 송아래 대소자 덤발람에 산주로 붙이게 되게 좁아서 레당 녀모바 추비 나와는 좁좁偏데 담배추 그죠요 담배추에 퇴바점 지키 좁이야 말해 담배추 시바점지가 좁도요 담배추 추대 술신데 냠설라고 술신데 냠설라나 다르바다 담지체가 그거다 말해 더 그래 나이 산지지 수말 나이 출라 타르베 람텐치 타르바데 차랑케 라나 요래 수말 대소자다 단단 말아서 잠내 사쇼 마보지라 되네 다와치키랭라 다섬 다보지 원조 봉마 제 싸나 요래 대가랑 경우는 인타바 제수 예라와다 도지체슈에 차라수 소담 첨벌 대원도 생각 최원시외 장 원조 수업 수화래 원조 대야고 진양서 안토바이나 대원시기 냠래 주나 제와래 라고 저요 가르에서는 대파 다나 똑방한 게 차르서 당 아주 타르바타 탐지신발에 디버체바테 대접기 되고요 대접수 돈 돌드는 녀마비드가 셰제드가 년접대 셰집되게 아주 다 감성 접촉으로다 코르든 주고요. 대 녀마바테 내다 그래. 다 녀마바테 내다. 다 내대나 봐서 그래. 대 녀마베드바다 셰제드바. 녀마베드바스한테 다샤 샤다 때모 맞아 차도 센나라 소바 녀마베 꾼도 또봐. 너는 zanyo 두. 아, 년년 니슈라 소바. 셰제드바스 코르스도 또봐. 그래서 남바로 똑바로 되는 시지 대바고 소화 커스도 똑바지 티 dim니 바자트 잡아 티 다고 티 다버 쳐만 제르 도모티베 값을라 된 잡수 좀 갱해지도 봐슈 되는 갱해지도 봐송 되네 지내다 라도라서 냠내체 되는 때네 안에 다져도 거부터요 대바침별로랑 제르 잡수 좀 갱해지도 봐 대강나 되네 개술다 결론거도 몰라서 쉬에 맞지 자주 샘도 쉬네 되네 냠내 쪼어도 저는 건지 자원에 돈이 인지 권한이 돈이 인지 또 저는 발라지야 결론주 돈이 인지 마도는 벤트다에 거를 참 소리 돈이 인지 소도 주비 냠내 나네 이제 바탕 수준 소 저바금 존주점 냠버샤 내루다 내루 또는 사주들 남가기 냠내 좀 봐셔도 되네. 자주 좀 가봐도요. 대 가르쳐 보시라네. 다 대강라. 되네 상가도시 대비기 냠내 나오셔 봐라. 메시지 와고 조르지 티 잡텐시. 롱당 제가요. 네고요. 대나는 다리 값을 봐봐텔라. 다 투모 치 원로. 투모 투미 난기 원로 소소리. 투미 치 원로 텔라 로도 나바셔도 가르쳐 봐라. 로추스 초거 진짜로 제 간부배 소아래 논셔남장해 소아래 로추스 도와주면 로도 남바시 다저 예박가 가술 치와 메다베 인출 레지드 로아메베 메술 그 감성 르트 노르남마킨 남면이 이렇게 씹에 째먹어도 가와코는 동안 숨지 열랑 동안 숨지 자는 메다베 인출이하고 삼로 따는 대코로 타다는 거는 년중 랍 지줄에 째는 최반 랍이요. 년중 정정이 지줄에 째는 최반 정정이 차요. 년중 열라 메라지 여바에는 대마서 최반이나 메라지 차. 년중 짜내면은 되네. 최두배도 로짜원이는 제게 말이. 대다 최두 세간데 가래. 최세. 당 아주 최두서는 좀 봐요. 탐에 탐마텔라요. 최근에 체화방화 때 대신시권 남지 송 체화방화 체화라 얘는 류지 체화, 나지 체화, 이지 체화 소리야. 대나네 되네 류기 체화 때 소주 봐 마지막에 봐 되로 나게 준다 담아 치수 나차 이치 되네 납심 내심 록다지 메게죠 전에 저 뽕한테 대신시반 남지 송송들 그래가지고 냠래 탐에 탐한다고 몇 개월 주티 더욱다르도 더욱다르도 신신 잼네 몇 개월 주티 두두지 방고 되게 신든지 가르친 거 대나는 돼가지고 몇 개월 자와 마보지 류당 류가 예수 나네 류렇게 소지바 마지발라바 라소바 다치라 지금 말해 얘나 그거는 준다 참아 저도 맞아 내가 전바야 때네 제거하는 그거 어디 준천보 준천조 준신도 첨부인데 나가요 준다 대신도 참아 밑투바 마템바 제가 식년 받는데 식년 받는데 도보래 되게 되는 생기 셈 쭉쭉 랭이 봤어요. 라신 니가 랭이 봤어. 지금 막샤스 되면 내가 완전 주수 니수 잡식 나는 동서 다지 땅나 근데 주수 망보지는 니 코로 주수 망보지는 투자야다 칼라 소야다 칼라 사야다 근데 그거는 인도 주수 망보지는 되면 땀 롱tam샤다 하시 대나네 다 자동 모습은 되면 땀하고 신의 주수 돌아다가요. 주수 telme mege wa ngante rosigire teso za ju chebe kenje chemba da sheche bayo tikte semne dene nga ko ne ju chama seso nga jarte 도신든 잠고 왔다 대신도 납심 열심 록다 잼네 메게 와 주테 도신든 잠고 왔다 대 도초 개와 주 맨상 받다고 지는 야야 맞아 냠살라고 하고 근데 때문에 게티 랑도르테 출신도 만나러 와서 좋아하는 텔레 때네 람 코미키 냠랭게 렘바 실람 저거 그 남샤 따금 주сөн 그 남샤 같은 저 렘바 시데 매바시다 라트 마고바 망망 슈슈케 땡년종다 조시 슈처럼 잠다 인제theo 초롱다 잘와 지줄 제토바 대신 자소 우승 그 따와요 렘바 시데 줄을 째네 되네 너는 뒤에 통통 째라 냠도 또 쳐버지 줄을 째그래 된다 소서 들로도 넘바 신 나네 단준 여벌까 치와 메다가 레전드 코로님이 남샤테 대처럼 봐 세요래 옛날에 dom라버지 저 가르침 버려 너르지 쉬어가래 다 로초스 줘봐라 로도 남바 시에서
Our precious teacher, the Buddha, the Bhagavan Buddha, had wisdom that knew perfectly and clearly the nature of things just as they are, as well as everything that there is to know. And through that knowledge, then, he taught the precious Dharma. And the precious Dharma, then, is that which protects us. The Dharma protects us from what? From karma, from the negative emotions, and from deluded experience. We have to acknowledge that we are deluded. But if we train in the sacred Dharma, and if we practice genuinely and correctly, then we can attain omniscience. It's not enough just to hear the Dharma, and it's not enough just to know the Dharma, but we have to actually put it into practice in order to attain liberation and omniscience. The Buddha said, I have taught you the path that leads to liberation, but liberation itself is in your own hands. So now in the world, all over the world, in many different places, many of you over this for this month, for the period of 1 month, are doing a 1-month retreat, practicing the preliminary practices, the 5 times 100,000 accumulations of the Ngöndro. And from really the depths of my heart, I rejoice in this, and I thank you for your practice. You are so fortunate. So you have so much merit to be able to train in this way. The preliminary practices, it is said, we have to be more careful even with the preliminaries than with the main part of practice. They're more profound in the sense that if we do well with the preliminaries, then when we come to the main part of practice, our practice will naturally be much easier. And the reason for that is because when we purify our obscurations, realization dawns naturally. So what is it that obscures us from obtaining liberation and omniscience? It is our obscurations and our evil deeds. And so when we talk about the obscurations, we speak about the obscuration of the negative emotions as well as the cognitive obscuration. And that then, those obscurations are precisely what cause us to cycle through samsara, through the 3 realms of samsara, being born among the 6 classes of beings. We are ill with the negative emotions. The negative emotions are like a sickness for us. And so we need then to train in order to become free from those negative emotions. The negative emotions like desire and anger and stupidity, pride and jealousy and stinginess, these are what the negative emotions are. And there are what we call sometimes the 6 root negative emotions and the 20 subsidiary negative emotions. So this is what is meant by the emotional obscuration. And then there is the cognitive obscuration, and this refers to thoughts connected with the 3 spheres of subject, object, and action. So any thought connected with the 3 spheres, this is the cognitive obscuration, it is said. And we need to purify the 2 obscurations together with all of the associated habitual tendencies. We must purify that. In order to do that, then, well, generally, in the general path of the Buddha Dharma, we would begin by taking the refuge vows and keeping those vows. And on top of that, training in the practice of shamatha and vipassana. And the result that comes about through that training is the state of arhatship. In the Mahayana practice, we again begin with taking refuge, the vows of individual liberation, and on top of that, perhaps take the vows of a monk or a nun, but on top of that, we take the bodhisattva vow. So the main practice in the Mahayana context is, as it is said, the real root of the Dharma is only emptiness and compassion. And if a shepherd trains in emptiness and compassion, then he or she will attain liberation. And a pandita who does not train in that will continue to wander in samsara. So here the practice of the Mahayana is the unity of emptiness and compassion. This is the core practice. And with that, through that practice, or as part of that practice, we begin by training in generosity and discipline, patience, diligence, meditative concentration, and the wisdom that realizes the natural state. And through that, then, we progress through the 5 paths, the 10 bhumis, that lead to the state, gradually, of perfect and complete Buddhahood. This is extremely precious and extremely important. On top of that, we can speak about the path of Vajrayana practice, where we receive the ripening empowerments, the liberating instructions, and the supportive reading transmissions. And here, to practice in the Vajrayana, we begin with the general outer preliminaries, and then we move on to the inner preliminaries. The outer preliminaries refer to what are called the 4 mind changings, the 4 thoughts that turn our mind towards the Dharma. And the great masters, both Gampopa and Longchenpa, stated this: grant your blessings that my mind may turn towards the Dharma. So in order to do this, we need to train our mind in these thoughts. The thought of how rare and precious it is to attain a human birth, how impermanent this human life is, and that death will come, the way in which karmic cause and effect is unfailing, and the fact that if we remain in samsara, we will cycle continually through the 3 realms, taking birth among the 6 classes of beings, and never be free from the 3 types of suffering, whether we are born anywhere from the lowest hells of ultimate torment up to the highest peak of samsara. In all of those states, there is no escape from the 3 types of suffering. So we need to think about this. We need to really acknowledge that all of samsaric existence is a type of suffering. It is painful, and that causes us to generate renunciation. If we have the best kind of renunciation, then we will be the best kind of Dharma practitioner. If we have mediocre renunciation, we will be a mediocre Dharma practitioner. If we sort of kind of have renunciation, then we can sort of kind of call ourselves a Dharma practitioner. And if we have no renunciation, we will not even have a thought of the Dharma. We cannot even call ourselves a practitioner at all. So we talk then about practicing the Dharma or accomplishing the Dharma. What does that mean? Well, there are different ways in which we can train in the Dharma, but at the very least, it is said, the Dharma is avoiding harm. This is what the Tathagatas taught. The Dharma is avoiding harm. So what kind of harm do we need to avoid? Harm that we might commit with our body, harm that we might commit with our speech, and harm that we might commit with our mind. Physical harm involves things like killing and stealing and sexual misconduct. Verbally harming others are things like lying and speaking divisively, speaking harshly, and idle gossip and chatter. And mental harm involves covetousness, ill will, and wrong view. And so as it has been said, Dharma is to avoid harm. This is what the Tathagatas taught. So we must be careful to avoid harm. We must avoid harm as if it were poison. This is very important. We must train in virtue and give up the 10 non-virtuous deeds. We must give up killing and stealing. Of course, it's very unlikely that we are going to engage in these physical non-virtues like killing and stealing and so on. But where we have to be more careful is with our speech. To be careful to be sure that we're not lying, that we're not speaking divisively, that we're not speaking harshly or just idly chattering. When we talk about speech and harmful speech, lying, there's all kinds of lies, big lies, small lies, medium-sized lies. And we must take care to avoid lying. We must take care to avoid divisive speech, using our speech to divide people, turn people against one another. And we must also avoid harsh speech. This is very bad, actually, to speak harsh words to someone. It disturbs the minds of others, and it causes us to accumulate non-virtue, and it's also problematic and painful and harmful for others as well. So if we think about the time that we spend in our day, there's 24 hours in a day. We spend a lot of time of it sleeping, a lot of time maybe preparing food, eating food, dealing with that. But a lot of the rest of the time we spend wasting. We waste that time just sitting around chatting, gossiping, talking idly. And it's very possible that that kind of gossip and chatter gets connected with attachment, aversion, and stupidity, and thereby accumulates non-virtue. So instead, we must be mindful, we must be vigilant, we must be careful, and in this way avoid the wrong deeds of speech. We must avoid lying, we must avoid divisive speech, we must avoid harsh speech and idle gossip. We also must avoid covetousness and ill will and wrong views. We must avoid these like poison, and we must take up the practice of their opposites, these positive acts, as if they are medicine, virtuous acts, and practice them again and again and again. So if we do like this, actually, if we train like this genuinely and we correctly avoid evil deeds and practice virtuous deeds in a correct way, then the path of practice is something that will unfold easily for us. Progress through the grounds and the paths, progress towards the result. We'll be able to train genuinely and to really move forward in the path, especially if we also have renunciation, train in love and compassion. And then it's not so difficult, actually, for the realization of Mahamudra, the great perfection, and the great middle way to arise within our experience. We will give rise to unique experiences and realizations very swiftly if we practice correctly in this manner. But we must start with these 4 thoughts, the 4 mind changings, contemplating this precious human body and birth and how rare it is to attain that, contemplating death and impermanence, contemplating karmic causality and the unfailing nature of karmic cause and effect, and thinking about the defects of samsara. Of course, you have heard about these many times before, but this is just a very brief summary. This was on the first point, turning our mind towards the Dharma, the first of the practices, which is the 4 mind changings.
다 출람던 도와라 원좀 봄시야 원좀 봄아세 내가 체력 토메네 영화 예수 그거데 되게 마고사요 되게 팀도 상메테 다버셔발라 탑쳐버지 상하 탐먹가와 매봤다 오버네 그 왕체데 나체데 잡을 파송하리 탑텔레데 저기 꿀롱 남파르토 거네 년종도 주시 잠바다 얘기 대바데 뭐그 대바다 다나 오늘 가슴 책점에 인코 르비게네 되는 년종도 주시 야부지 줄이제 잠인지 초다 잡아 심피에 탐피 파마 정보제 봐서자 파마 정보제 달랭알 르 밀루타 기베신야 상보자 남아야부터 담배 출신도 마치 그 고급이었던 네 정보집 지침 판만해서 탈바타 터지신 고발에 네 메거는 쑥그 샘탈라테는 가와든지 쪼아든지 뽑아든지 그거니 아니 원로 그냥 냈던 좀 받은 냠선 안 거예요. 대나네야 다 담보 잠조도 가르쳐 버려. 잠조 젤라 사지 쳐대 긴데 남아예다 칸도 죽을로 쪼고 다 된담배게 잠조네 라시 라고셔봐. 대다 된담배 잡래. 사지 쳐대 긴데서로 잡수치고 남아예다 칸도서로 잡수치고 죽을로 쪼고서로 잡수치고 라심 최초거를 잡수치고 그랬다. 저기 탐진한테 쳐도 랑게 셈지 내로 주니 대신지 고바 참마시시 시행고요. 대신 비실 둘 자유 mam보쟁아 주 땜바래. 된 담바트 다 라심 추고 원송데 또 이렇게 실들로 자유 남아 mam보지 땜고요. 그래서 잡으러 그래 받아 가르쳐 버려. 대여서 산지 최대 견딘수 탈반되만 남지 잡상 와서 탈바타 탐지치가 코코 토거나 대신 가능한 접수시나 탈바타 탐지치가 코코 토토나 되네 고주소만 잡수 뒤나네 잡던 변하는 초도 초바다 담비치어리 담비치었던 바바데 산제리 되게 까트만 매바데 와라소로 출신도 막 롭된나게 치키 개회신이한테 개념을 그래서 산시 최대 견딘수 탈반다만
Next, the Dharma must become our path. And the way that happens is through the practice of the preliminaries, the 4 or 5 times 100,000 practices of the Ngöndro, or the preliminaries. Here, we have actually been in samsara since beginningless time, and we have accumulated all kinds of negative deeds since beginningless time in samsara with our body, with our speech, and with our mind. In order to purify these completely and totally, we rely upon the unique methods of the Vajrayana. The Vajrayana is said to have many methods, to be have little difficulty, and to be a practice for those of the highest capacity. It has these unique qualities. The vehicle of mantra is unique or supreme, superior in these ways, it is said. So here, what is so important is our motivation. We must begin with a motivation, a pure motivation of renunciation and weariness with samsara, love and compassion, faith and devotion, or faith and pure perception. And it's not enough just to talk about it. It's not enough just to use these words. We have to really feel these things from the core of our heart, from the depths of our being, from our bones. We must feel renunciation and weariness with samsara. We must feel love and compassion that is unbiased, that extends towards every single sentient being, with the acknowledgement that all of them have been our kind parents. And so we should think to ourselves, now I've attained a precious human body, and I have met a spiritual teacher, and I have the opportunity to practice the Dharma. So if I don't use this opportunity well, and if I don't establish my mother and father sentient beings in the state of liberation, who else is going to do it? And so with joy and with courage, we should take up the practice with this kind of attitude. And we must begin with taking refuge. The practices of refuge are so important. We take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, the Guru, the Yidam, and the Dakini, the Dharmakaya, the Sambhogakaya, and the Nirmanakaya. But the ultimate object of refuge is actually the nature of our own minds. So to recognize the nature of one's own mind, this is the ultimate object of refuge. We talk, of course, about the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha being the refuge objects. The Guru, Yidam, and Dakini, the Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya. We take refuge in all of these objects, but the ultimate refuge is the nature of our own mind, the Dharmakaya. I take refuge in the nature of my own mind, which is the Dharmakaya. So we actually must come to recognize the natural state. And in order to do this, of course, we rely upon many, many different outer refuge objects, different kinds of refuge objects. But the point of relying upon those objects of refuge is simply to come to the recognition of our own basic nature, our own natural state. Taking refuge is so important. It is said that those who desire liberation should take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And so that means if we want liberation and omniscience, no other objects of refuge can lead us there. We must take refuge in the three jewels. And from among the three jewels, we could say that the supreme refuge is the sacred Dharma, the sublime Dharma. The Buddha is the teacher who taught that sublime Dharma, and the Sangha are those who guide us correctly on the path that is espoused by the Buddha's stainless speech. And so we say that the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha are the objects of refuge for those who desire liberation.
대잠으로 담배를 다 심지에 가르쳐요. 심지에서한테 마주로 심지 직자 매바다. 마 다대 잠에 마게 진심을 제가 나시 심지에 탐지지라는 진심을 장샤. 진심 마게 돼서 대화도 그래. 동안 되게 말해. 내가 주 잠니 이제 잠수 시스템다 돈이 되게 셔를 나서는 공룡도 퇴료 매봐요. 야나 공룡도 퇴료 연아야 출시도 냠서 마트 발라 때문에 또 코로나 참돼요. 동아리 주대 차다 모습. 차다 모습은 강강 슈슈 차다 모습. 제베 완케 제보다 내서선 대면에요. 메다하다. 하면에 나서 르텐도 되는지 대나한테는 밀루야 망치한테 쳐를 도나면 대나는 밀루나는 쳐를 도나요. 뉴뉴 봐. 대쳐받아 춤세 야와데 메다과 생각에 일을 짜는 메삼카데 춤은 저거 많이 봐. 메다 조시에 야야 섬놓고 잠인지세한테 가르침 많이 받아. 얘네 딱으로 전쟁 남샤 세계한테 가르침 많이 받아. 다르다 탐제집에 공부 마통나 때 가라야 님보면도 관계장아 짭두고면도 관계장아 거두고면도 다 진미 바샤트 잡아라가 탈고도 레더 녀모 베트르 나와라가 탈고도 사베기 니 타바네 거죠. 대밤 이시시 여바예나 텔레 때네 때 다르다 템지죠. 두비요 거래. 멤베요 거래. 람탈은 베발레 때네 냠도 똑바 쳐버리는 지주리 제요.
Together with taking refuge, we train in bodhicitta. And here, we must think about the fact that there are not any sentient beings who have not been our kind mothers. And in the same way that our mother now in this life is so tremendously kind to us, just like that, all sentient beings have been that kind to us. And our kind mothers, sentient beings, none of them want to suffer. All of them want happiness. But the causes of happiness, which are love and compassion and bodhicitta, the wisdom that realizes emptiness, they have not heard about that. They don't know about that. Or if they have heard, they haven't been able to train correctly in it, and therefore they wander in samsara. And the causes of suffering, which are attachment and aggression and stupidity, nobody wants to suffer, but they engage in those causes that bring about suffering, and therefore the result is the suffering of being born in the three lower realms, that pain, or even if they are born as a human or a god or a demigod. You know, there's not that many people who are born as humans who really have interest in the Dharma, actually, very few. And what is the difference between actually a Dharma practitioner and someone who is not? A Dharma practitioner is someone who thinks about impermanence and really contemplates that again and again. Someone who does not think about impermanence at all or has no interest in thinking about impermanence is not a practitioner. Someone who thinks about impermanence, who feels weary with samsara again and again. Someone who thinks that love and compassion are important. Someone who thinks that the presentation on the view and meditation and conduct and the result of practice is something important. Somebody who thinks that there is nothing that is really meaningful apart from attaining Buddhahood. Somebody who thinks that there is no other refuge, no other protection apart from attaining Buddhahood and realizing that true nature. Someone who thinks, I must rid myself of these two obscurations and all of the habits that are connected with those. Someone who thinks the negative emotions, karma, deluded experience, I have to become free from that. Someone who really, from the core of their heart, really believes in this and really wants these things, that kind of person will attain liberation and omniscience because they will practice, because they will train on the path, they will put forth effort out of their inspiration to do so, and they are the ones who will gain unique experience and realization.
다 소제바 마지막날바 되베 로버 엠브리 라소바 랑게 제바다 셴라 제든 주바다 셴지 제바라 예수 예라한테 제바데 용식이 테라소바 디디 바자데 제바 다버 제바라 다 가르쳐 버려 다 차차고 차착 세게 되네 가리서는 군조 속에 연대 셴 연대 셴바다 Ka-Nying tempa, Ka-Nying tempa, Sanjing Yuande, Sanjing Yuande Samjing Mechawe, Chepe Yishe, Jebe Tuji, Jebe Tene, Jobe Nutu, Sanjing Yuande, Samjing Mechawe. Teyan Son Dordun, Nilu Chetavi Chepe Chepa, Sheshe Chenebe Chepe Chepa, Chini Yishe Deba, Sanjing. Tesosa Sanjing Yuande, Samja, Tambe Chue, Samja, the Longi Chue. 똑같죠. 어때 출신도 냠설하는데 진이 바샤듯이 다 진이 이시 제도고요. 또 최주한테 삼매죠. 긴두 사투게 semba침보, 자주 semba침보, 대파부 긴두. 대신도 다좀받아 다좀마야 긴두리. 대신도 딱 소탈 dombenade 기술 다 결혼기 dom바 출신도 시에시 냠서 랑데베기 다 dom데 결혼도 줘야 삼지 매샤베게 되네. 자비를 연대 처비해. 근데 소사 당간주 차 처비 세술 대야 되네. 장차다 꿈차스 니여봐. 지르 꿈차스인데 되네. 꿈내 차차에 되네. 바탕 장차스인데 하고도 와 길로게 상하게 도지 TV로 장차스 뢰되바 매바 장디 차상스 내 탈모 자르고 탈모대 탈모 인간의 자 네 배마 카프 받다고 인간의 자를 값을 라나 산지 추 모두 나게 달라마 수행의 대일의 된 삼체 되네 다 제바체나 차 제바체나 담보 지수를 되네 니바시 순바시 순 시체 다 되네 제바체 다 드레스 차체가 좀씩 가르에 있어서 지축 내가 아주 산재 가서 지축 지우주라 내가 산재 연대를 쭉들어서 줄 호텔 때네 이나야 다차 몸라서 쳐 가서라 다죠 점바 니가 숨라 야샤는 돼요 그 값으로 쌈을 가르쳐 버려서 겨울에 값으로 다소 파마스 제한테 체코로 토마 매번 류지고네 소자바 마진벨레바 저벨로버 임바소 랑게 제바다 셴레 제트 줘바다 셴지 제바다 다버쇼상 대대체마인데 타예베 심제 마음베게 레드트 다토예요 레드 다토베게 짜원다고 또 랑게 굴로 닝지 시험을 줄래 닝지 들리니까 쌈이 메셔봐 닝지게 네바다 산제의 자주스럽게 지랍 Ngöndro tender을 때는 타입의 심지게 대두가 카트도요. 대신도 근데 담문 개발이 작았다서 낙소 파마 심지 타입의 심지 담지지 아주 거네. 다 준다 참아 스스 와잘. 강 내바다가 랑게 내바다 셀은 내트 줘바다 셀은 내바는 제수 예로한테 집에 데리 예도 잡아 타버쇼. 인공 루베 때는 내가 카슨 책상에 말아 랍촌을 루지 루니 바보지 와네 미네 치마트는 인지 치 거네 때진데서네 이 동안 치부터 거네 내가게 너 빠져라다 루기 차서바이나 심지 만백이 되듯니 타입의 심지 탐지기 되듯 막 같이도요 대중이 네바다 맞자도 인진 네바다 산지의 자주스럽게 투지 지나버릴 때 attain 다 당이 다 된다 다 지원을 잡을 값으로 류기 되게 다 류기 되게더니 나도도 똑바로 친절 없어 나시 동로 동시 나도 있으면 그 류기 산지의 자주스럽게 그때 나도 있으면 그래 똑바로 친절 없어 나 그거네 다 다시 시작하래 대신도 나한테 되는 니도 담지 다네 나 자동 자주 동로 동시 자동 예매 예수면 되는 산지 송 자동 예수면 이렇게 되네 난데 같은 거랑게 줄이 저셔서 다 이주건 다 인가 잡을 것을 나서 파마 심제 타입의 심제 탐지지 이주건에 되네 난 답선 록다 랑게 쳐봐 쟤네 제대로 줘봐 현지 저번에 예수 예라와지 같이 되는 예도 그 사람 랑면서 다수삼 되네 전 차처를 가서 차트 줘봐야 많이 봐 달보야 많이 차처를 가서 가고 예랑 쪼아다 잡을 건 자 제발이나 되게 되는 르그 거네 지를 르지 거네 사비 되게 제라도 롱아 예수 주고 되게 탐져 다도 대성자 참법사야 되시라 가르쳐버려 참법 다 달린데 참법 삭술티 라마게 채널을 야구 티어를 진정하게 삭술때 야구 챙겨요 오늘 냠랭 나다 대신에 못으네 오늘 뭔 아대 전에 사장 나토냐 제가 감면세 되게 되게 뭐다 소치보사 되는 때문에 되는 냠랭 것이 가리 나나 제조가 냠랭 가리 나나 냠랭 전조 폭되고 생 나와 안에 걔가 골세 완전 만들어와 다 편도시 뭐예요 된들 때는 그거다 누르지 되는 말
So, refuge and bodhicitta are extremely important. And together with that, we engage in prostrations as a way of purifying the negative deeds that we have engaged in with our body in particular. We have killed, we have stolen, and we have engaged in sexual misconduct. We have done these things ourselves. We have encouraged others to do them, and we have rejoiced when others have done them. And in order to purify all of that negative physical karma, we engage in the practice of prostrations. So knowing the way to practice prostrations is to remember the qualities of the three jewels, to know the qualities of the three jewels, to know about the kindness of the three jewels, to keep in mind the fact that the qualities of the Buddha are inconceivable. The Buddha has wisdom, the Buddha has love and compassion, the Buddha has awakened activity that benefits others and the capacity to protect. And the Buddha has two types of wisdom. He has the wisdom that knows things exactly as they are, as well as the wisdom that knows everything that there is to know. So the Buddha's qualities are truly inconceivable. The qualities of the Dharma are inconceivable. The Dharma of scripture, the Dharma of realization. If we practice the Dharma correctly and well, we will be able to purify the two obscurations together with all of the associated habitual tendencies, and we will be able to perfectly and fully unfold the two types of wisdom. And so practicing the Dharma is amazing, and the qualities of the Dharma are inconceivable. The Sangha, the qualities of the Sangha, we talk about the bodhisattvas, both male and female, who have attained the bhumis. These are the noble Sangha. Also, the male and female arhats are the noble Sangha, as well as those monks and nuns who have taken the vows of individual liberation, as well as the monastic vows. Their qualities, if they are practicing genuinely, their qualities are truly inconceivable, actually. And so we keep these inconceivable qualities in mind of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha as we prostrate. How do we actually make prostrations? Well, there are two ways. There's what are called what we call in English a half prostration and a full prostration. The half prostration is when we bend over. It's literally in Tibetan, the translation is more like a bent prostration. So when we bend our body over or fold our body over and then prostrate. And then in the Vajrayana, we practice a full prostration without thought for the body, just laying it all the way out fully on the ground. We prostrate. And so we begin by placing our hands together, our palms together at our heart. We leave a little space in between, like the bud of a lotus. And we should, as we place our hands here at our heart, think about the guru who taught us the Dharma. And then we place our hands on the crown of our head. So first at our heart, then up on the crown of our head, then here second at the throat, and then at the throat, and then down at the heart again. The reason that we do this, the reason that we place our hands at the crown of our head is, or what we do when we do that, is we think about the qualities of the Buddha. And one of the qualities of the Buddha is actually this ushnisha on top of the Buddha's head. But here, anyway, when we're doing the 100,000 prostrations, it's fine to just place the hands at the crown, at the throat, and at the heart in these three places. That's fine. So as we place our hands together at the crown of our head, we should think, I and all sentient beings, we have engaged in negative deeds of the body, like killing and stealing and sexual misconduct. I've engaged in them myself. I have encouraged others to engage in them. I have rejoiced when others have engaged in these negative deeds, and all of that negativity of myself and all sentient beings is purified. May it be purified, and it is purified. And so if we practice in that way with real, genuine motivation and love and compassion, we can actually purify the karmic obscurations of many, many sentient beings through our own compassionate motivation, altruistic motivation, as well as through the power of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. That power and their compassion allows us to genuinely purify the negative deeds of many, many sentient beings through making prostrations. And then we place our hands at our throat, and we should think then about all of the negative deeds of speech that we have engaged in, that all of the lies I have told, all of the harsh speech, the divisive speech, and the idle chatter that I have engaged in, as well as that which I have encouraged others to do, as well as the negative deeds of speech that others have done that I have rejoiced in. We should think, may all of these be pure, and not just think it and not just say it, but we should really feel it. We should really feel overwhelmingly about this. We should, in the best case, the hairs of our body stand on end and tears form in our eyes, and we feel an incredible pain, mental pain and suffering at the thought of these negative deeds that we have engaged in. And we speak the words with our voice, we prostrate with our body. And if we do this in this way, then actually the negative deeds and obscurations of countless sentient beings, limitless sentient beings, are actually reduced through our own compassionate motivation and through the compassion, the love, and the power and the blessings of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. We can purify in that way. So as we place our hands on our crown, we think, may the negative deeds of body be purified completely, and also may I and all beings come to realize the unity of appearance and emptiness, which is the body of the Buddha. It appears and yet it is empty. It is empty while it appears. May I receive the blessings to realize this. please grant blessings that I may realize this empty appearance, the body of the Buddha. And as we place our hands at our throat, then again, we should think that all of our negativities of speech are purified. They have been cleared away, and that we make the prayer to receive the blessings to realize the speech of the Buddhas, which is empty speech. It is sound and yet empty, empty and yet it manifests as sound. So may I receive the blessings to give rise to this empty speech, which is the speech of the Buddhas. And as we place our hands at our heart, we think that may I and all sentient beings, may all of the negative deeds that we have engaged in with our mind, covetousness and ill will and wrong view, things that we have done ourselves, that we have encouraged others to do, when we have rejoiced in these negative deeds engaged in by others, may all of that be completely and totally purified. And so we should keep that in mind as we place our hands at our heart. And when we prostrate, don't prostrate too fast and don't prostrate too slow. Prostrate joyfully with delight and joy in your mind. And in this way, if we're really, truly, genuinely practicing, we're able to purify tremendously, in particular, like in general, the karma of body. Physical negative karma can be purified, but actually karma of all of our body, our speech, and our mind can be purified through making prostrations. So you all know how to prostrate. The lamas have been teaching you how to do this well. You know how. You've been practicing it for this time. Please continue to practice this. If you can complete the 5 accumulations of 100,000, 500,000 accumulations of the preliminaries, you will purify a tremendous amount of negative deeds, and you will gather a tremendous accumulation of merit through this practice. And then when it comes to the main part of practice, like the generation and perfection, the generation and completion stages, when you arrive at those practices, actually your preliminaries will act as an enhancement for that, and it will allow you to really make progress and to not get caught up in any kind of mistakes or wrong progressions on the path. And so this is the benefit of engaging in the preliminaries, and this was the instruction on prostrations.
대신에 도지sembe 검대에서 지를 산제다 자주서가 다음 주 주지인 예수 매명하나 형도요를 되네 이담실 하 강땡나야마 강가라 천진 녀수 그런 수샤다리에 뒤나네야 로발라 남직값으로 되네 빠르도지sembe게 네 타입의 심제담직인데 대득대 네 명태바 잠직다 나 이해를 템바 잠직이 타입의 심제게 줄을 대득 예통 탐직 다 도버쇼 저는 답변해서 산지역 쉬나 대파시에 참매가 녀외 참매가 라소부터 대파 침바 된다야 돼 빨거지선 건데 대양 카정 세상에 이거 르베 때문에 되는 빨거지선 건데 소신도 양소는 대포치 대파 침바 쳐봐야 되는 대표 다토야 될소서 빨거지선 건데 가면서 도지처럼 여러분 대파 또 보셔야 다토가 되려요. 대소서 뒤쪽 화면도 담았잖아. 빠르도지선 건데서 쉬고야 좀 제대로.
Next is the meditation and recitation of Vajrasattva. In general, of course, all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas abide with their minds indivisible from the Dharma Dhatu, and all Yidam deities actually have wisdom and love and compassion and power. But in particular, Vajrasattva, at the time of training on the path, when Vajrasattva was still on the path, made the aspiration, may anyone who hears my name, may anyone who even thinks of me, may all of their obscurations and negative deeds and breakages of vows and commitments, may all of that be completely and totally purified. Even things as horrible as the 5 deeds of immediate retribution, even terrible, terrible negative deeds. If one practices the practice of Vajrasattva, not just lip service, but really from the core of our hearts, then even great evils, even great terrible negative deeds can be purified through this practice. So Vajrasattva practice is very important, very special, and there are tremendous blessings and power and compassion that come about in that practice. And so is really tremendous, the ability to purify our negative deeds through that practice. So the practice of Vajrasattva really allows us to purify all of our negative deeds and evils totally and completely without any exceptions.
손을 삼지매 잡고 저걸 잡아라 잘라라 최쳐봐 얘네 만달로스 만달 다 만달로스 레저르게 깨리 닝보네 발아요스 닝보 만달로스 최발아야 메더스 진코라라요 메더스 다 메더스도 돼 고치신 거래 다 값을 봐봐 되나다 전화상속이 메더스 치 값을 내주 반열 나 달류로주 계속 상화되네 코스 넘버입니다. 배 예시진강은 여버샷. 다 들으시네. 다 저거 피해야 돼 말이야. 저거. 되게 소 30년 전 사고요. 그래서 멘탈케를 받대. 또 같이 많이 받아고 대나네 당하러서 드랍네 메시지들 르르라 착세. 롱주라 착세. 되네지 르다 롱주. 탄다야 배 그런 알아서 수다트로 릭샤 소소그 롱바다 다 되는 작전이요래. 그 작전이 바다 맞자마자 감숨 내주 안절당 달류 롱주 계속 투지 다니 나는 거 신의 시절부터 서로 소화래. 되는 신의 멘탈 푸션 랍첨부 짜첨부 되는 신 풀고 알아. 되는 신의 소 30년 전에 사요. 대같이 뭐이.
And then comes the practice that allows us to accumulate inconceivable amounts of merit. It's something that's very easy to do and has a tremendous amount of benefit. And this is the practice of what we call the mandala. So mandala is a Sanskrit word and it has many different meanings. Sometimes it's said to mean actually to really take the essence of something, to really make something meaningful. We call offerings also a mandala. We call in English, there's not another word for it, a mandala, like a kyokor, a Tibetan word is translated as mandala. So the word is used for many different things. But here in particular, we are talking about making an offering of the outer, inner, and secret mandala. So the outer mandala offering that we're making is the offering of the three realms, the whole world and all of the wealth within it. And then the inner offering is my own body, my enjoyments, and my roots of virtue. And the secret offering is to make an offering within the state of non-conceptual wisdom, free from the three spheres. And so we make this kind of offering, and through making that offering, we are able to gather an inconceivable amount of merit. The mandala offering is a really important practice. And in particular, we human beings tend to be very attached to a lot of things. We're attached to our bodies. We're attached to the things that we own. We are attached to smells and tastes and sights and sounds and sensations. We're attached to our own homeland and so many different things. So to purify that attachment, we actually recite this. We say all of the wealth and enjoyments in the three realms, in the world, my own body, my wealth and enjoyments, and my roots of virtue. I offer these to the compassionate lords, the lords of compassion. Please accept these and grant your blessings. We recite these words of the mandala offering, and then we actually make this offering, and we accumulate in this way tremendous amounts of merit.
Lama 생각해 가르쳐. 나는 maybe 이시, 나는 maybe 닝지, 나는 maybe 이시, 나는 maybe 닝지 될 라마. 나를 열어서 뭐마 산제다 자주 써봐. 근데 라마 개위신이 이렇게 둘로 옆에 나는 maybe 닝지 심었다. 나는 maybe 그 셔럽 심었대. 지마치신 아는 그 줄을 좀 좋아 좋아. 터봤더니 라메 나는 열어서. 라면 나줄 때 냠소 랑소들 치손데 소왔다. 솔와 같이 야고 답통나 되지 산지다 전주스베 투지 진압대 랑 롱아 예수만 죽도 그래. 소와 딩딩이 제타바에는 투지 진압 딩딩이 제타. 솔와다 이나 메나지 땀나 되네 투지 진압 장에 제라리로 또또 대소서 인고 루베 때네 솔립트 가지고 그래. 솔립 다 선택지시 율데 수레 사나 나네 산 뒤숨지 산지 대배 산지 말면지 마음 중요하게 산지 자서 잠방 다대 산지 샤겼다 되는 뒤숨 산지 다음지 그 투지 대체라 찍든 뒤대 봐대 나네 니마 나도가 갑선나 투지 대체라 뭐다도 이러대 그걸 빼면 좋네다 아 파마드로마 니 아니 제레스가 숨데 다들 뒤니마 막 되면 갑선 코너에 투지 칠랍대야 loktan yurgiyor. Tende sonsan te kam nere te ngaraso guru Rinpoche la sola tabayina sanje tang janju samba rachomba tende zaju lama ganga guru pemen jode ki kuso tula la 상도 여러 뒤도 여러 된 guru pemen jode te aba meke namtu yang himbare 내 sanje ku tuba yang himbare te sonto chochi jawa seta jaba ke tuji chelap nerde tamji 직도 공시하고라고 그룹에만 조내리 대선서 그룹에만 조내라 치 선택제 먼저 빼만 조내든 저렇게 속신라 선택제 근데 왕실래 투이세 소리 왕실래 세한테 되네 왕세한테 가르친 거라서는 라메 고송토로 연태 가래요 라마다 자베라마다 주벨라마다 단 돈도 쇼지 잡아 세트제베 그 손들로 연태 가려요. 대대신을 말하는 줄로 좀 종아리 잡아라. 종고요. 토고요. 들라 왕세. 왕 상왕 샤랍 이시죠. 왕세. 칠분배 왕 걸어라 되는 최탐피 나동도 왕와대. 왕 상왕을 때는 나탐피 자동도 왕와대. 아, 봐서 샤랍 이시죠. 왕을 때는 최탐피 대동 예수님 왕와대. 되네 왕시바 정화를 보시는 때는 되네 시식권적 비이시 내로도 정말 시행되는 워터네 되는 왕종네 땜바토는 조가토야 디로소자 대완전게 있었는데 감면서 신압적으로 다때서 너르도네 치선됩지 나 와실래 되네 두에 세는데 너나 두소산지 공바탕 ngaranke semke shiti isumeva yene sanjede semjenke semke shila shichi bayin bare semjen nanne sanjeni anja lobru timatesar sanji soare semjen temjeke semji shila chuni 대신 yede bare chuni 대신 ni meva suya yomare tesosa kamderta sosa dibjamma bachene tene labordo 되네 라트도 되네 치선데 나와실래네 다투 있어요 그래서 되는 대변 남도 그 예수 만나 마음이 남도 미스 다 되게 되는 내들 나와게 나와대잖아 차셰가 가야 마찬가지 때문에 지셔봤지 고향을 따네 똥상에 고향에 제니에레 상탈레 지네 레신 양발 never shall show. 경디 저거 사람이시 담바가 장수 심저는 맞죠 맞아 받는 진짜 맞냐 손남대 탐지서 보니 톱는 예배 따다 봐 자간나지 빨아도 세배 손은 나와도
And then we come to the practice of Guru Yoga. When we talk about Guru Yoga, who is the Guru? Well, the word in Tibetan is Lama, and what that refers to is unsurpassed wisdom and unsurpassed compassion. The one who has that is the guru, actually. And yoga here means, has the sense of wanting to connect directly with that. So all of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and the gurus of the spiritual teachers, the wisdom and the unsurpassed wisdom and unsurpassed compassion that is present in their minds, we ourselves want to connect with that. And so that's what it means actually to practice guru yoga, making that aspiration to connect with that unsurpassed wisdom and compassion present in the minds of the gurus. So then to do that, we outwardly supplicate, and then inwardly we mingle our minds. We inwardly receive the 4 empowerments, and then secretly mingle our mind with the guru. So the outer supplication we have to do very well, because the degree to which we really genuinely supplicate is the degree to which the blessings and compassion of the Buddhas are able to enter into ourselves. So if we do kind of a mediocre supplication, then we get mediocre blessings. And if we kind of sort of supplicate, then we kind of sort of get blessings. So that's why it's really important to supplicate really genuinely from the core of our hearts, from the depths of our being. Really supplicate. To whom do we supplicate? Well, to the Buddhas of the 3 times, the past Buddha Dipankara, the present or the future Buddha Maitreya, the present Buddha Shakyamuni, the one who is the real essence, you could say, of all of the blessings and love and compassion of all of those Buddhas here for us in the degenerate age, the time of the 5 degenerations. The one who is the essence of all of the Buddhas of the 3 times are Guru Padmasambhava, Tara, and Avalokiteshvara. In particular, during this degenerate time, their compassion and their blessings are swift like lightning. So here, the object of our supplication in this Ngöndro practice is Guru Rinpoche. And we should think to ourselves that actually all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and the Arhats and the root and lineage gurus, they are all present within Guru Rinpoche. They are all present within him. And so we supplicate to Guru Padmasambhava, who is an emanation of Amitabha, who is an emanation of Shakyamuni as well. And so all the essence of all of the Buddhas is present there within him, and we outwardly supplicate. And then we, together to Guru Rinpoche, who is present in the refuge tree, then among the field of accumulation, and then we receive the 4 empowerments, and then mingle our mind together with the Guru's mind. And receiving the 4 empowerments here, when we talk about empowerments and what it means to be empowered, actually it is we need to gain within ourselves the qualities of body, speech, and mind that are present in the Guru. And the root and lineage gurus, all of them have those qualities, and those qualities must enter into our own mind. And that is what it means actually to receive empowerment, to be empowered. When we talk about empowerment, there's the outer empowerment, the vase empowerment, then the secret empowerment, and then the wisdom knowledge empowerment, and then the precious word empowerment. So the vase empowerment is what points out to us empty form or empty appearance. Through the secret empowerment, we are pointed out, the empty sound is pointed out to us. Through the wisdom knowledge empowerment, empty bliss is pointed out. And in the empowerment of the precious word, which is also called the 4th empowerment, what is pointed out is the wisdom that pervades all of appearance and existence just as it is. And this is what we need to recognize, and this is what we need to sustain the continuity of, and this is what we need to gain stability in, because when that happens, we attain accomplishment. So this is the importance of actually the wisdom of empowerment and gaining stability in that. So again, outwardly we supplicate, inwardly we receive the 4 empowerments, and then on a secret level we mingle our mind with the Guru. And in this case then, what happens when we do that is that In fact, the mind of the Buddhas of the three times, their realization and their wisdom is indivisible from the basic nature of my own mind. It has always been indivisible from the basic nature of my own mind and the mind of all sentient beings. That's why it is said sentient beings are Buddhas, but they are obscured by the temporary stains, and when those stains are cleared away, their Buddhahood becomes manifest. So all sentient beings have this same basic nature as their most innermost basic nature, and that is nothing other than suchness. That is nothing other than the Buddha nature. We all have that. And so then what we do is we, here in the practice of the preliminaries, we have done a lot of gathering of the accumulations. We have done a lot of practices of purification, and in particular, we've gone through the outward supplication, the inward receiving of the empowerments, and then we come to mingling the mind with the Guru. And for that, what we should do is remain in a state where we stop chasing after thoughts of the past, and we don't invite any thoughts of the future, and we don't fixate or grasp or cling to any of the present appearances. We don't try and do something with them or stop them from coming. Just stop doing all of that, set it aside, and remain totally open and at ease in a state in which your mind is not focused upon anything whatsoever. It's a state that is totally empty, at ease, wide open, totally naked and bare. Remain in equipoise in that state.
In the world, in Europe and America and China and other areas, many of you doing Ngöndro, I really so happy. The bottom of my heart, I want to rejoice. And you did great, say great job in your life. So please continue, and I will continue to teach more. Thank you very much. All the best.